Welcome to the Let's Be Authentic podcast, episode number 3. Today, I just wanted to get into some habits that I've implemented and just daily little things that I've added to my routine in order to make a compounding change and overall just have snowballed into the way that I do my daily routine and how that has impacted me over time. So the first habit that I've definitely recommended over and over again, and I still continue to because it really did change the game for me, is the 3 core task routine by Donald Miller. It's the one that he talks about in his Business Made Simple podcast, and if you have not listened to it, I recommend it day in and day out. It is amazing for personal life, business, it doesn't matter. You always have something that you can implement from what him or his guests talk about, so I definitely recommend that for sure. Another one is, I'm going to stay on that a little bit more. It's so effective because you don't have to think about what will move the needle or what will make you make progress in the morning, because most of the time, I don't know about you, but I am not up. I'm not awake. My brain isn't working until at least 15 to 20 minutes later after I wake up, just because most of the time it's early and I probably didn't get enough sleep just because at the moment there's a lot of things going on, and so we just kind of have to adapt to that and make it as easy as possible for ourselves to make progress without having to think about everything when we are half asleep and really just need to wake up, which is why the 3 core tasks are a game changer, something that I definitely recommend. Another one that I do as soon as I wake up, or pretty much 5 to 10 minutes later, is journaling. Now, I do this thing where I list the 3 things that I'm grateful for. I used to do 5, but that takes up a lot of the page now, so I just do 3. But not 3 I'm grateful for food and a roof over my head. Of course, that's an obvious thing to be grateful for. I'm talking about smaller, minute things that you're grateful for. That's why you really have to kind of think about it for a second and really just get into what you're grateful for at the moment that has already arrived, that is currently happening as you're sitting there, or today in that moment, or that is coming up soon. But it has to be something that really matters and is not surface level. Now, I'm not saying that having a roof over your head is surface level, but it technically is. I'm just saying to get deeper into something that you're truly grateful for, because it really puts you in that right headspace of, this is no matter what is happening during that day now, you are already in that state of gratefulness, which really helps navigate through something that might happen later that throws you off course, but at least you're already in that positive mental state and you can kind of recalibrate right away or switch your emotion. It helps you shift your mood really quite fast. At least that's what I've noticed, and I used to be a very, very emotional person, which I still am, but that has definitely helped me kind of be more realistic about a situation and be able to shift quicker. So I definitely recommend journaling and just brain dumping onto your journal, whether it's in the evening before bed or in the mornings. Personally, in the evenings, I like reading, but I'll get into that just a little bit later. So the mornings is when I just decide to write what I'm grateful for, what I want to do that day, just anything that comes to mind, especially if it's something that's heavy on my chest. It does help. It really does. And if you're not doing it yet, I definitely recommend you do it. Another one for that, it was a little harder to implement just because it's not really part of our habits usually, but it's not going on my phone for the first 30 to 60 minutes. I don't really have people that are calling me at 7 a.m. I don't have employees. I don't have that big of a client base that I need to be on my phone as soon as I wake up, because I have friends that have that, and that's completely fine. That's a different situation. What I'm talking about is when you're still in the development phase and you do have clients, but they're not the ones that will call you up at 7 a.m. or text you, or you don't have employees, then there is no reason for you to be on your phone that early in the morning. And it's something that I had to come to terms with because I personally like to just scroll. Even if it wasn't Instagram, like I would go on LinkedIn, I'd go on YouTube, I'd play different things. And I do play podcasts some mornings, but what I like to do is a little bit different now, which I will also get into just in a few minutes. But I definitely recommend staying off your phone for 30 to 60 minutes, maybe getting on it just to check in with whatever's happening at a later point in the morning, but just take that time to be with yourself and be more in a meditative, what am I going to do that will impact and compound over time type of state. I'm not too sure what that's called, but that's the overall picture I'm trying to paint, is just being able to focus and setting yourself up to win the day, because that's what we all want to do. And there's things that you can do for that. So another one that I've also recently implemented, just because I'm trying it, is I've heard from a few people that limiting carbs or not having carbs at all, personally I do have a few, but limiting carbs kind of limits brain fog. So I used to have toast and like this granola with yogurt, and I am currently trying to limit carbs in the morning, and so far I do think that I'm seeing a slight difference. Now that doesn't mean I'm cutting carbs out at all, but it does mean that I'm waiting till a little bit later in the day just to see if it does affect me, and it's a testing in progress right now, so I'm going to test it for I think about a week or so more and see how I feel, and then if it doesn't change anything, then I'll go back to how it was. But it's worth trying. It's worth trying, and it's not exactly really harming me, so might as well. Another one that I have implemented that has definitely changed my life is reading. I know that that's quite a big statement, but it really has, in the way that I'm able to focus, in how I'm able to retain information, in how I speak, just the thoughts that I have now, the way that I think about certain situations. I really recommend you read a book. Not a fiction one, a non-fiction one. The ones that I'm currently reading are How to Influence People, or How to Win Friends and Influence People. I can't exactly remember how the title is. I think it's How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that's it. Either way, it's a pretty known book, but I recommend it. I really do. The habits and tweaks to your behavior and how you interact with people are not groundbreaking per se, but the way that he tells you to implement them, you don't do. I guarantee most of them you don't do, and if you do, congratulations. If you don't, those are definitely something that you should start working on, especially when you're in business, because they really do influence the way that people around you react to you, the relationships that you're able to form, even if you have just met. It's definitely something I recommend you read. Another one that I'm reading currently is To Sell is Human, just because I want to get better at selling my service. I mean, that's kind of obvious, but it's true that we all have this negative view of what selling is, because we've all experienced that pushy, sleazy salesman, and I had that view until very recently, and I'm still working on it, don't get me wrong, but it has definitely helped to kind of reshape the way that I think about sales, especially when I see, for instance, a friend of mine who is on a sales call. It also helps to kind of just tune in what they're saying and how they're saying it, because what you'll find is that they have a completely different approach to what we've all just made up in our heads and have been exposed to once or twice, but that negative experience really does ripple and contribute to how we feel about it. So I will read typically in the morning or late afternoon. It just depends on how much time I have. I'll either read 10 pages or I'll read for 10 minutes. It doesn't sound like that big of a difference, but trust me, when you read 10 pages of a book, it takes longer, or at least for me it does, than if I read for 10 minutes. So it just depends on how much time I have that day, and if I do have enough time, I will definitely read 10 pages, because then you just get farther ahead and you get more knowledge. Another one that I recommend to do while you read is highlight and just annotate anything that you find interesting, because then your brain registers it more if you've highlighted it and written down. You can probably not resell the book if that's what you're thinking of doing, but it impacts you a lot more if you do annotate it. And honestly, I would recommend you keep the books anyways, especially these kinds, because they always come in handy. It's always good to read them back, so might as well. Another one that I've implemented over time is meditating. Now, it used to be that I could only do 5 minutes, just because when you first start it, it's going to be harder to stay within yourself, to stay centered, to watch your breathing. That's what I did at the start, just to help me center myself, and I still do, but I don't need to all throughout the meditation anymore. And just start small. Start with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, move up to 15, 20. Over time, you will be able to do more. I'm now able to do about 30 minutes, which I never thought that I would say. I did used to do some yoga as a kid, but it's not exactly the same thing. However, mindfulness has definitely helped. Now, it's not everyone's cup of tea, and meditation really just depends on what your definition is of it. If working out is like meditation for you and it centers you, do that. I know that I can do a mix of both. I lift weights and I also do meditation. Lifting weights has been part of my life for 3-ish years now. I think 3 years, probably more so. And I'm not getting rid of it, but meditation kind of just adds a little extra zhuzh, if you will. Like, it just helps that extra bit. And it just depends, again, on how much time you have. A little bit is better than none, although I should probably listen to my own advice for that one. Something else that I'd like to kind of bring up is that recently on a podcast, now I don't remember what it was, I don't remember the title, unfortunately, but one of the guys on the podcast brought up the fact that the first 10 minutes of your day set you up for the rest of your day. And while I didn't really realize it, so I just listened to it and was like, oh, that's interesting, I wonder if that would help. I think it does. Again, it might not be the case for everyone, but I genuinely think that it does, and I started implementing it pretty much the next morning because I was curious. So what I've always done is when I wake up in the morning, I'll give myself like 3 to 4 minutes, just because I can't do the whole thing like springing out of bed as soon as I hear the alarm. That just doesn't work for me, like, at all. But what I will do is I'll get out of bed, make my bed, get out of my room, because that way I just leave that space that's for sleeping or getting dressed, and I come into the space that is made for me to make progress, work, etc. So that really has helped with my overall productivity, and which is why I've also stopped going on my phone as soon as I wake up, because it really does influence your thoughts and your overall mood. Because if you get bad news, you're in a bad mood. If you get positive, like, it's just not good to have something external influence your thoughts that much that early in the day. So the whole 10 minutes setting you up for the rest of your day, I think that's true, which is why I've engineered my morning routine to work for me, not against me, which I don't think we realize, but a lot of our morning routines are working against us. And when you really start taking into account or really start paying attention to everything that you do, I think you'll notice that yours does too. And it's not permanent. You just gotta change it up a little bit. But it really does make the biggest difference. And when you feel like you've won the first 10 to 20 minutes of your day and you feel confident and you feel grateful, I don't think some people realize the impact that has on your mind for the rest of the day. Again, I certainly didn't when I first implemented it, and now I won't go back. Like, definitely won't go back, because it has just so positively influenced my overall state of being. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was the Atomic Habits book by James Clear, I believe it is. I think so. Mind you, I didn't even read the whole book, which I definitely should, especially if I'm going to talk about it, but it's fine. The things that I have learned from other YouTubers as well, which documented their journey when they were just starting out, is that the way that habit stacking works, and mind you, I've only really done it for 2 things in my day or just around me, but it's already made a very big change. And the more that I kind of think about it, even on the moment, I think I need to kind of restructure it again, but that's okay because you can always redo it and restack habits and reform new ones. Like, that's just the beauty of change, isn't it? So the way that I've done it is my chair that I'm sitting on here right now is the one that I sit on to work. And there's one on my left, and that is what I sit on when I want to wind down, not think about work too much, or not think about work at all, and just be able to do something different. And then I have my couch behind me over there, and that I will use for reading if I need to kind of move around to the couch, because I don't know about you, but if I sit at the same spot all day because I'm on the computer a lot, I will go crazy. Like, I will lose it. My brain won't be able to focus anymore. I'll just start to lose focus on that and go on some random thing or go on my phone as well, even if I know that my concentration is going to be disrupted. And it takes me quite a while to get back into the zone of just concentration. So to limit that, I just move around. I move from here, then I'll maybe put it on my lap over here, then I'll go on the couch, then I'll probably put it on my coffee table and then work from the ground, or like sit on the ground. Whatever works for you. You might not need this, but if you do need it, just know that it's fine. Like, it doesn't, as long as you're working and making progress. The ones that sit at a desk for 8 hours, it really did take me a long time to realize and just acknowledge and accept that even if my brain and just, I can't do that, and it's just not, it doesn't work for me, it's okay if it doesn't work for you either. You just have to find something that does and stick to it. That is one major thing that I've learned as of recent, and I'm still working on it for the rest of my habits. I'm not saying that I've found the solution, but over time you really do find what works for you, and it's so important to stick to that and try and not get distracted by the next shiny thing routine-wise. We talk about shiny object business-wise, but there is also such thing in routines. And really finding what works for you is so important in how much progress that you can make over time, and really just determines how successful you can be during the day if you really just implement habits to enable you to be successful and to feel like you win, because it's a feeling as well. Like, the feeling of being in control, getting stuff done. I know we've all felt that, and it's amazing when it does. Like, when it happens, you feel amazing and you just want to keep going. You want to do that and you want to feel that way every day. And the second that you find something that makes you feel that way, keep it. Really keep it and implement it in as many ways as you can, because then you'll make so much progress and your brain will just be addicted to that feeling of getting stuff done and feeling successful and winning every single day, even if it's little ways. And there might be days that you don't feel like, there's good and bad days. We all have good and bad days, but even during the bad days, there's just something, like just 1 or 2 things that I've done that I know will help. And it really does help me shift my energy and my focus onto what I've done that day that has moved the needle or has enabled to make progress. And it just helps you shift your attention and shift your vibe and shift your energy so much faster. And that does overall really help you. And I really recommend that you find ways to do that. Again, the ways that I do it might not, or probably will not even work for you, but I'm just saying that there's different ways to do it that don't involve copy pasting someone else's routine, because I've done that and I still catch myself doing that and it doesn't work. Like, 90% of the time when I speak to someone, it's not the routine that, like, you have to engineer your own routine is what I'm really trying to drill for, not drill for, that's not the way to say it. what I'm really trying to push and make clear, because I tend to fall into that trap a lot. You will, again, you probably will, and that's okay, but you just need to know to spot it and change it, because it really can affect it on the long run. And then, yeah. So that was kind of what I wanted to talk about today, because it really has helped me recently, and I figured that it might help someone else, because daily routines really do affect you in the long run, and they compound. So if you found this video useful, do like and subscribe. I will be back next week as well, talking about just either business or personal development, because that is something that I'm truly passionate about. I'll also be talking about fitness at some point, because that's another thing that I'm very passionate about. And yeah.